I was betrothed to the crown prince. Yet on my very first day back in the capital, I encountered Xiaoyinxiu, the city's most renowned young gentleman. With his sword-like brows and starry eyes, he smiled with unrestrained abandon. Having lived so long at the frontier, Your Highness must never have seen the true world of the martial arts. Shall I show you? He took me horseback riding on the grasslands, to sword-fighting tournaments, and moonlit boat rides, coaxing me without restraint, break off your engagement. Wander the martial world with me, wouldn't that be lovely? That was his true motive for drawing near, to sever my betrothal to the crown prince, clearing the way for his true love. I smiled and patted his cheek. The crown prince can grant me the empress's throne. What could you possibly offer me? Thank you for keeping me company these past days. Once I enter the palace, I'll miss you. Xiaoyinxiu had a circle of boozy, carnal friends in the martial world. Sword trials and flute melodies. A life of debauchery and excess. Standing behind the beaded curtain on the second floor of Suixiang Pavilion, my fingertips lightly plucked the tassels as I listened to the lewd whispers nearby. Master Xie's move was truly brilliant. Truly worthy of Xie Gongzi. Princess Nanqiao in the northwest has never seen anyone like you. With just one move, you've bewitched her completely. Look at that lovesick smile on her face. She'd probably even lick your toes if you asked. Xiaoyinxiu leaned against the window rail, a cup of wine in hand. Hearing this, he chuckled and downed it in one gulp. What's the point of licking toes? The others burst into knowing, lewd laughter. I strained my ears to listen. These men were friends Xiaoyinxiu had introduced me to when we first ventured into the world. When introducing me, they all wore expressions of utmost respect. Yet behind my back, they stabbed me with the most vile words. It's just a shame for young Master Xie to have to put up with that ugly woman. Someone slammed the table. If you ask me, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince is the one who's truly wronged. Engaged to such a coarse girl for 5 years, what kind of nonsense is that? It's like a flower planted in cow dung. That Xie gentleman capturing her this time truly achieved what others couldn't. Xiaoyinxiu spoke lazily, utterly disgusted. She doesn't even know she's some bastard child born from her mother forcing herself on some man. When Nanqiao smiles at me, it makes me sick. With that, Xiaoyinxiu sighed deeply. Ah, never mind. It's just too distasteful. I listened, taking only a light sip of tea, my heart utterly unruffled. Having the capital's foremost young master attend to me for a month, such idle gossip doesn't trouble me. But this matter isn't over yet. A soft voice murmured, like a nightingale emerging from the valley, clear and sweet. The engagement between the princess and the crown prince still stands. I suppose I can only be a concubine. The speaker was solemnly, the capital's most beautiful woman, gentle and virtuous. The crown prince and Xiaoyinxiu's eternal ideal. Without looking, I knew she must be clutching her handkerchief now. Her eyes reddened, wiping away tears of grievance. In exchange, Xiaoyinxiu offered his heartfelt assurance. Liar! Fear not. You deserve the most noble man in the realm. You are destined to become the empress who guides the empire. I will clear every obstacle from your path. The music of silk and bamboo instruments began again. As I turned to leave, my mood was light. Xiaoyinxiu was the eldest son and direct descendant of the Xie clan of Qinghe, a family of distinguished military merit. His power, status, and wealth were all of the highest caliber. Most crucially, he possessed sharp brows and starry eyes, broad shoulders and a narrow waist, a man who could charm any woman. His sweet talk was enough to make one swoon. That skinny stick of a crown prince? Stiff, pedantic, utterly boring. How could he compare to Xiaoyinxiu's charm? I must thank Songli for pushing such a gem into my hands. The crown prince and I were, at best, childhood acquaintances. After our betrothal, I followed my mother back to the northwest and hadn't seen him for 5 years. dressed in a moon-white brocade robe. The boy of yesteryear had blossomed into a graceful, elegant young man. Just too thin. I was a bit dissatisfied. I forced a smile and was about to step forward when he poured cold water on me. The betrothal was arranged by the emperor. I only regard you as a sister. My feet halted, and I waited silently. Mother always said, in warfare, impatience is the greatest enemy. Plan before you act. Sure enough. He had more to say. I can only grant you the title of crown princess. Beyond that, you must not harbor any illusions. He said he could not give me love. A rustle came from deep within the woodland. I saw Song Li's eyes reddened, her face etched with heartbreak. It dawned on me. Back in the northwest, I'd long heard rumors that the crown prince was close to the capital's most beautiful woman. They were inseparable, deeply in love, and she was destined to become his secondary consort. My very existence had broken the heart of his beloved. Song Li turned away. Her face darkened. The crown prince hurried after her, shooting me a glare as he left, as if I had wronged her. Fresh in the capital, unfamiliar with the city, the crown prince claimed he had no time for me and assigned someone else to accompany me. Xia Yunxiu stood in my courtyard, his dark blue brocade robe making him look like a jade statue on the roadside. A long sword hung at his waist, and when he smiled, the corners of his eyes lifted slightly, carrying a hint of the unrestrained aura of the martial world. He was so captivating I couldn't look away. Having lived long at the frontier, Your Highness must never have seen the real world. He extended his hand lazily, a smile playing on his lips. Shall I show you? I stared at him for a moment, then suddenly laughed. Why not? If I weren't plain looking, I might have thought he fancied me. The moment he smiled at me, I knew trouble was brewing. The crown prince, or him. But it didn't matter. The moment I saw Xia Yunxiu, I decided I wanted him. What followed was Xia Yunxiu's script. He took me to the rooftops to watch the moon, the night breeze caressing our faces as the city lights spread out below. He brought me to witness martial arts tournaments. Stepping into the arena himself, a single sword move earned thunderous applause. He owned a painted boat on the Wei River, where we drifted downstream together. When sleep came, we rested on the boat. When hunger struck, we docked at riverside stalls, savoring steaming wontons while plucking lotus pods from the banks, peeling them, sipping wine, and savoring each bite. This month, I lived with unrestrained abandon. Xia Yunxiu was always meticulous when inviting me out. Each time he took me on an outing, he used an alias from the martial world and disguised himself. In his words, he detested the constraints of a noble young master. The martial world was where his true self resided. Those peach blossom eyes, perpetually smiling, reflected my image. I wish for you to see the most authentic me. Me, not Xia Yunxiu. Within 2 months, rumors about me spread throughout the capital. They said I was entangled with a rogue of the underworld, defying convention, unfaithful to my duties, unworthy of the crown princess's position. No one knew it was Xia Yunxiu. He remained that unblemished young master of a distinguished family. Even storytellers in tea houses spun tales about us. The noble ladies of the capital sneered. Truly uncultured, hailing from the uncivilized Northwest. Utterly shameless. Does she even realize she's the future crown princess? I merely smiled faintly. My mother commands most of the military power in the Northwest for the Great Liang dynasty. And as a princess, I hold considerable influence. When these rumors reached the emperor and empress, they merely urged me to behave more appropriately. They hoped to use gossip to force the emperor to dissolve my engagement to the crown prince. But it wasn't that simple. I remained the stumbling block to Song Li becoming crown princess. Drunk, I perched on the railing, the stream glistening below. Xia Yunxiu approached, juggling a wine flask. His fingers lifted my chin as he called my childhood nickname, Chow Chow. Break off the engagement. Wander the world with me. Won't you? His breath, mingled with the scent of liquor, brushed against my ear. His eyes brimmed with longing as he waited expectantly for my answer. Originally, he'd been waiting for my reputation to plummet, hoping the emperor's fury would dissolve my engagement to the crown prince. But the emperor had disappointed him, leaving him to pin his hopes on me instead. Here he was, trying to seduce me again. But if he wanted to negotiate terms with me, he'd have to put something on the table. Kiss me. Xia Yinxiu paused, a flicker of disgust crossing his face before he forced a look of deep passion. Slowly, his lips met mine. This kiss, coveted by every woman in the capital, I finally tasted it. My whole body trembled with excitement. At first, he was awkward, but soon, instinct took over. Just as we both nearly gasped for breath, I suddenly pushed him away and tapped his cheek. The crown prince can make me his future empress, the mother of the nation. What can you offer me? Xia Yinxiu's expression changed instantly, my eyes hazy with intoxication. I leaned in again, continuing to nibble and lick his lips. Thank you for keeping me company these past days. Once I enter the palace, I'll miss you. Xia Yinxiu sucked in a sharp breath, stunned that he'd stumbled so badly with me. His face flushed from pale to crimson, utterly priceless. Had I not been acting, I would have burst out laughing. Xia Yinxiu refused to give up. He'd already boasted to Song Li, how could he backtrack now? As I tallied the dowry list with my abacus, a plum blossom dart lands precisely on the beam, its tail tied to a peach-pink note. The maid retrieves it cautiously. This time, he claims the peach blossoms are in full bloom in Dongjiang, where he buried several jars 2 years ago. He invites me to dig them up together, drinking wine and singing songs that would truly make life worthwhile. Without lifting my head, I replied, burn it. Still resorting to these old tricks. Doesn't he ever get tired of them? I've always been someone who loses interest quickly. I blinked and instructed my trusted maid, go tell Xia Yinxiu. I'm busy purchasing my dowry. At Jinbao Pavilion, Xia Yinxiu happened upon me. The moment my fingertips touched a pair of jadeite bracelets, Xia Yinxiu appeared from nowhere. Snapping his folding fan shut, I'll take this pair. I turned to point at a box of Dongzhu pearls, only to have him beat me to it again. My competitive spirit ignited, and I deliberately selected the most expensive items, a blood jade hairpin, a gold-threaded sachets, a Western region glass lamp, all priceless treasures. He accepted them all without hesitation, like a money-scattering fairy. This young master claims these. Have them delivered to my residence immediately. The shopkeeper wiped his brow, glancing between us, bewildered by the feud that had erupted between us. I swept my sleeve and left. Xia Yinxiu's ways with women were nothing short of masterful. Everything he bought was promptly delivered to my residence. The gold, silver, and jewels piled high in the side hall dazzled my eyes. Only 10 days later did I finally accept his invitation to meet him. Lanterns hung high on the painted boat, gauze curtains swaying gently. Xia Yinxiu approached against the light, candlelight draping him in a gauzy veil. Knowing my fondness for blue, he wore a navy blue wide-sleeved robe that accentuated his slender, straight waist, making him look like a jade crown. A smile played at his lips. How could I let you spend on things you like? His gaze burned into mine. My heart pounded wildly. A single tear fell, perfectly timed, half from emotion, half from hesitation. But my fiancé is the crown prince. I knew myself well. I wasn't a beauty, my tears didn't evoke pity or tenderness. Yet Xia Yinxiu's acting was masterful. He drew me into his embrace, the scent of incense enveloping me as his lips brushed my hair. Had I married the crown prince? who both feared my mother's military power and disliked me. I'd likely never have a decent meal in this lifetime. This journey to the capital was meant to dissolve our betrothal. Before that happens, I intend to savor Xiaoyinxiu's delights to the fullest. His feigned tenderness now is far more intriguing than any courtesan from the northwest. My heart races with excitement. With the mood set, it would be a shame to waste such a beautiful moment. As the candle flickered, I let myself be swept along, bewitched by Xiaoyinxiu. Though not as burly as the men of the northwest, his physique was well proportioned, broad shoulders beneath his robes, a firm waist, and he gave himself completely. I found it utterly satisfying. He blew out the candle, never looking at me. I didn't mind him imagining me as his eternal muse. In the pitch-black darkness, hot sweat dripped as he murmured my name. Qiao Qiao. A night of passion unfolded. Yet no one knew what transpired between us. The next day at the poetry gathering, Xiaoyinxiu and I merely exchanged polite nods. Everything appeared pure and proper. Only the lingering scent of agarwood perfume, not yet washed from his skin, still faintly drifted toward my nose. I yawned lazily. Someone inquired, "Is the princess unwell today? Why does she look so weary?" Xiaoyinxiu's eyebrows flicked, a flicker of satisfaction in his eyes. I lowered my head to sip tea, hiding a cold smile. Too many mosquitoes had kept me awake all night, waking me several times. It was just a minor incident, something no one paid much mind to. But to those with keen eyes, even the slightest hint could become a storm, especially when fueled by a woman's intuition. As the poetry gathering ended, I brushed past Songli. She froze abruptly. Beneath the slight opening of my collar, a half-exposed crimson mark was visible, and the scent of Xiaoyinxiu's agarwood incense, a fragrance she surely recognized. Her displeasure was palpable. Xiaoyinxiu was her devoted admirer, a dog who'd always fawned over her, never tolerating the thought of him licking another's boots. A woman's inexplicable competitive streak flared up, hiding the malice in her eyes. She quipped softly, "Where did the princess go to have fun last night?" I smiled, feigning innocence. "What are you implying, Miss Song?" With that, I casually rolled up my sleeves, revealing the mottled marks on my arms, and lied through my teeth. "Last night I accidentally ate some sweet potato cakes and broke out in a rash. How could I possibly have the heart to seek pleasure elsewhere? Look at my hands, they're covered. It's driving me mad with itchiness. These mosquitoes. They always target the softest skin. Aren't they just the worst?" She stared at the suggestive red marks, grinding her teeth in silent fury. After a long moment, she suddenly smiled. I misspoke. "Your Highness, please forgive my error." After that day, Xiaoyinxiu grew distant toward me. I understood perfectly well. After all, with his prey secured, he no longer needed to expend effort. He loved roaming the martial world, never one for trivialities. Wild and untamed, a notorious playboy in the capital. When a new foreign dancer arrived at the entertainment quarter, he busied himself playing flute and zither, then presented a zither score to accompany her dance. Returning to the city, girls tossed him flower petals and handkerchiefs, which he accepted without refusal, never refusing a gift. When he heard of a long-lost masterpiece by a master painter from the previous dynasty, he traveled 100 miles to find it, then brought it back to Songli. He called it an act of appreciation. But truly, it was to see his white moonlight. Songli was satisfied with his restraint toward me. Occasionally, when we met on the street, Songli would smile smugly at me. I knew Xiaoyinxiu was waiting. He believed victory was assured, that once I submitted to him, I would willingly renounce my engagement to the crown prince. His plan was to let me make way for Songli, then ruthlessly cast me aside. Ordinary women would play along, alas. I am not one of them. He forgot the trump card was in my hand. at the polo match hosted by the Empress. I entered in a striking Red Riding outfit, capturing everyone's gaze. When I hung upside down from my horse to retrieve the colored ball, the entire crowd gasped. I won the top prize. And the emperor smiled, saying I possessed the grace of the late Empress Dowager. The prize was a piece of Huizhou ink worth 1,000 gold. I said, "Your servant's literary skills are poor. I'll give it to Crown Prince Brother instead." The Crown Prince accepted it without hesitation. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Xia Yinxiu on the stands, his expression far from pleased. I let him know that what he offered wasn't enough, it wouldn't make me abandon the Crown Prince. That night, he scaled the wall unnoticed and pinned me hard against it. "Ciao ciao. I miss you." My fingers traced his Adam's apple as I made my demand. "I am a princess. The women around you have no right to share the same man as me." "I see. That displeases me." He suddenly smiled. Jealous? He thought my possessive claim over him as my exclusive property meant affection. I'd laid my cards on the table. To win, he'd need to wager more. Then, abruptly, he changed. He stopped frequenting pleasure houses, keeping his distance from every woman who showed interest. Even his contact with Song Li dwindled. He wanted me to know he had eyes only for me. Yet his nightly visits to my courtyard grew more frequent, each time more passionate than the last. Afterward, he'd always say, "Break off the engagement. I'll marry you." He sure was putting his all into this act. I'm not tired of it yet. I don't want to. Lying on his chest, counting his heartbeat, I closed my eyes and changed my answer. "It's not even dawn yet." My clandestine meetings with Xia Yinxiu grew ever more frequent, so frequent that even Song Li began to feel threatened. Before she became crown princess, Xia Yinxiu remained her fallback, claiming him as her possession. She couldn't bear the thought of losing control over what was hers. Xia Yinxiu knew how to placate her. It's just a charade with her. I don't love her. I'm doing this to make her break off the engagement with the crown prince. I've told you, whatever you want, I'll give it to you. The crown princess's position is yours too. Wait for me. When he said those words, even he didn't realize how hollow they sounded. He'd just risen from my bed, not even changing into clean clothes. His garments still carried the scent of my favorite Western region perfume, and a crimson lipstick stain lingered at his collar. Song Li's eyes flushed red. Xia Yinxiu grew frantic, swearing solemnly, though I touched her, "I'll never let her bear my child. She's unworthy." Song Li pouted, "Really?" The second male lead fanned himself with a folding fan at his waist. After a long moment, he murmured, "I never lie to you." Song Li lowered her head, then suddenly stood on tiptoe, swiftly brushing a kiss against his cheek before retreating to stand shyly to one side. "Brother Yinxiu is the best." Her voice dripped with saccharine sweetness. This was the reward from his white moonlight. Yet to Xia Yinxiu, it tasted utterly insipid. Xia Yinxiu's lips mirrored his character, bold and unrestrained. He craved those lingering, passionate kisses. Each time, I'd begin with butterfly light pecks, sweet and flattering, until his breath quickened, then slowly deepen. That gradual deepening of passion could drive him mad. Song Li, maintaining her prim and proper demeanor, couldn't master such sensuality. Had she been a bit more open, she might have captivated Xia Yinxiu completely. Xia Yinxiu claimed our affair was merely a game, yet even he didn't realize how he'd changed. That night, he scaled the wall and slipped inside, chuckling softly as he drew a porcelain vial from his robe. "Lip balm from the western regions. For you." "What? Think my lips are too rough?" "No." His thumb brushed my lower lip. "I just wanted to taste. If it's sweet." The candle crackled, sending sparks flying. He snatched the book I was reading, carried me to the bed, and we spent another night entwined. I delayed making any decision about breaking off the engagement. At first, Xia Yinxiu urged me. Gradually, he stopped. If I truly ended the engagement, he'd have no reason to approach me in front of Songli. He'd already tasted the sweetness. This enraged Songli. My confidant told me she smashed a cup in a private room at the tea house. Raging, is she that special? How many times have you been with her? Xia Yinxiu's face darkened. Isn't this all for you? They parted on bad terms. Songli panicked. This tension reached its peak at the Mid-Autumn Festival banquet. The Empress hosted a lantern festival in the palace. I specially brought wine from the northwest, condescending to personally pour drinks for the noble ladies and young masters. When I reached Xia Yinxiu, my fingertips inadvertently brushed his hand, slightly cool. Xia Yinxiu's voice tightened. Princess Xia. Not far away. Songli's handkerchief was nearly torn to shreds. She could no longer contain herself. During the riddle-guessing garden tour, the Yew Garden was packed with people, and no one noticed the two of them disappear. In a secluded corner of the Imperial Garden, Songli stood on tiptoe to kiss him, but Xia Yinxiu turned his head away. Don't you want to be the crown prince's consort? Songli tugged at his sleeve. What if I said I don't want to marry the crown prince? Brother Yinxiu. Xia Yinxiu froze, taking a half-step back, his brow furrowing. The crown prince has feelings for you too. Wait a little longer. I don't want to lose everything at the last moment. Songli's eyes reddened as she whispered hoarsely, wait. 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 How much longer do you want me to wait? Are you afraid of losing everything? Or have you truly fallen for that barbarian girl? This remark struck a nerve in Xia Yinxiu. He abruptly pulled Songli into his embrace and pressed his lips to hers with fierce intensity, as if desperately needing to prove something. Their breaths grew heavy, as their tongues shifted angles. Wet, sticky sounds escaped. Songli, unaccustomed to such intensity, immediately let out soft moans. Her inexperience left her unable to control her voice. I might have misjudged her. Songli wasn't the type to hold back, she was bold. Xia Yinxiu and I only dared sneak around. But she was truly fearless. I overlooked one crucial detail. This place was the Imperial Garden. This occasion was the Mid-Autumn banquet. I watched with rapt attention until impatience flashed across Xia Yinxiu's face. Just as he moved to push Songli away, I parted the drooping wisteria branches. Which shameless servant dares to laze about and indulge in pleasure here? Xia Yinxiu was the first to react, shoving Songli aside. His face instantly drained of color. The crown prince stood beside me, his face as dark as iron, colder than the moonlight itself. I raised my sleeve to hide a cold smile. Footsteps approached from nearby. Better to share joy than enjoy it alone. I raised my voice. Oh my. If it isn't young Master Xia and Miss Song, what are you two doing here? The next moment, the secluded corner of the Imperial Garden suddenly filled with people. Every pair of eyes widened. There stood Songli, her vermilion hairpin askew, half her lipstick smeared across her face, the other half pressed onto Xia Yinxiu's lips. Who didn't know the crown prince harbored affection for Songli? He'd long intended to take her as a concubine, or even a principal consort. What the two had been doing here, everyone understood at a glance. Oh, gathered here searching for the Empress's hidden musical scores? Did someone find it? Might I have a look? Miss Guo from the general's household arrived later, pushing her way in with a lantern. Always brash. She shone the light directly on Songli's face. Why is Miss Song's face so flushed? Is she ill? The words left her mouth before she could stop them, and she blushed crimson with embarrassment. A deathly silence fell over the group. Finally, a smooth-talking lady broke the tension, suggesting everyone search elsewhere for the sheet music. Only then did the crowd disperse, leaving just the parties involved. I twirled a wisteria blossom between my fingers, nearly laughing out loud. Song Li's face flushed alternately pale and crimson before tears rolled down her cheeks. She adopted a pitifully helpless expression. Your Highness. This is a misunderstanding. Please hear my explanation. Unable to grasp even the hem of the crown prince's robe, she watched helplessly as he swept his sleeve and departed. Xia Yunxiu remained relatively composed, though his fists clenched tightly. He instinctively looked up, searching for me. In the crowd, my figure had vanished. I'd grown weary and wanted to end our relationship. Since ending it, I chose a dramatic way, clean and decisive. As the heir apparent, the crown prince was born with pride. No matter how much he liked Song Li, he couldn't allow himself to become a laughingstock. Especially when he had other options. The Western Chu embassy arrived in the capital to pay tribute, accompanied by a beauty. At the state banquet, Princess Qingfang burst into the hall of fragrant blossoms clad in crimson, capturing the crown prince's gaze. Dancing upon the drums, she radiated youthful brilliance. Innocent and charming, even I felt a surge of delight at the sight. Seated nearby, the crown prince watched her transfixed. So absorbed he didn't notice the wine overflowing from his cup. The contrast between the princess and Song Li was stark. Western Chu sought a royal alliance, naturally proposing a legitimate princess for the legitimate crown prince. Yet I was already betrothed to the crown prince, leaving the emperor in a quandary. At this moment, I proved thoughtful. Your humble servant, raised in the northwest among soldiers, is coarse and unrefined, unworthy of His Highness the Crown Prince. To foster good fortune is to cultivate virtuous bonds. May our two nations forever unite in harmony, free from strife. The emperor was devoutly Buddhist, and I played to his interests. Thus, the matter was settled. Feeling indebted to me, the emperor wished to make amends. I lowered my head, hiding the slyness in my eyes, and smiled. Then, Your Majesty, please grant this humble maiden one small request. The capital had been abuzz lately. One topic of lively discussion was the marriage between the Crown Prince and Princess Qingfang of Western Chu, the union that brought joy to both nations. Second, the astonishment over Xie Yunxiu and Song Li's romantic trysts beneath the imperial garden's blossoms and moonlight. Rumors swirled too thick to keep track of. Seated in a private room of the tea house, my fingertips tapped lightly on the tabletop. Below, the storyteller animatedly recounted tales of literary geniuses and beautiful maidens, while surrounding whispers buzzed with idle gossip. If you ask me, Miss Song's move was brilliant. If she couldn't marry the crown prince, there was always the eldest son of the Xie family. Either way, she came out ahead, though the Xie family couldn't match the prestige of the Eastern Palace. Becoming the matriarch of a prominent clan was hardly inferior to being a concubine in the crown prince's harem. Some took a more daring perspective, cupping their faces with eyes full of longing to dare challenge the crown prince over a woman. If I were Miss Song, dying for it would be worth it. The young ladies giggled in unison. I lowered my head, sipped my tea, and let a faint smile touch my lips. Quite splendid. Amidst all this gossip and intrigue, my own broken engagement seemed utterly insignificant. My mood lifted as I hummed a tune descending the stairs, where I happened upon Song Li, dressed in plain white robes. She stood on the steps like a willow swaying in the breeze, showing no trace of distress from the rumors. Spotting me, she curved her lips into a smug smile. Princess, she said triumphantly, hasn't Brother Yunxiu sought you out in quite some time? I paused to think. Had she not mentioned it, I nearly forgot about him altogether. She gloated over Xia Yunxiu's neglect of me. Do you really think he ever liked you? She sneered. He was just toying with you, playing a game. I nodded indifferently, acknowledging her point. I didn't expose her self-deception. Xia Yunxiu's affair with her had brought shame upon the crown prince. In a fit of rage, he stripped several members of the Xie family of their official posts. Xia Yunshu himself was escorted back to Qinghe by the clan elders that very night. Confined to the ancestral hall to receive family discipline. Unable even to get out of bed. He still remembered to write me letters, one after another. Every word dripped with longing. Saying he missed me. Begging me to come see him. I didn't reply. I didn't show my face. Songli waited for me to display heartbroken despair at being abandoned. But I didn't. I merely raised an eyebrow. Drew a stack of letters from my sleeve. And handed them to her. Kindly deliver a message to young Master Xia. His persistent clinging puts me in a difficult position. I burned the 10th letter Xia Yunshu sent. As the ashes burned out, another plum blossom dart arrived. Its tail tied with bright red silk. The kind used only for wedding ceremonies. I stared at that splash of red for a long while before heading to the rendezvous. The painted boat was eerily quiet, no music. No clinking of cups. Not even a single servant in sight. The moment I stepped aboard, I was yanked into his embrace with such force it felt like he intended to crush me and embed me into his very bones. Qiao Qiao. Xia Yunshu called my name in a hoarse whisper, burying his face in the nape of my neck. His kisses were slow and deliberate, laced with an impatient possessiveness. I didn't struggle. Instead, I spoke calmly. Xia Yunshu, the crown prince and I have dissolved our betrothal. We can be together openly now. I've made way for the one you love. Are you pleased? We spoke almost simultaneously. He froze abruptly, lifting his head slowly, his eyes brimming with bewilderment. That innocent expression amused me. And I chuckled. Didn't you say you'd clear every obstacle blocking Miss Song from becoming crown princess? Now that your wish has come true, aren't you pleased? My smile vanished abruptly, replaced by mocking realization. Oh. Wait, now that Princess Shichu has become crown princess. She has new obstacles to overcome. I tapped his chest lightly. At a time like this, shouldn't you be off seducing the princess of Western Chu? Xia Yunshu trembled violently, his face turning deathly pale. You know? You're toying with me? I gave a half smile, absent-mindedly stroking the back of my neck. Don't put it that way. Didn't you toy with me first? We're even, just returning the favor. Xia Yunshu was utterly stunned. In an instant, shock, fury, and utter disarray flashed across his face. As I turned to leave, he uttered the most ridiculous words. Nan Qiao. I like you. Whether you're toying with me or whatever. I don't care. I just want you. I spun back in shock. A womanizer who'd played the field all his life now demanded a commitment from me? How ironic. He reminded me, Qiao Qiao. You're already mine. Seeing my unmoved expression, Xia Yunshu pressed his lips to mine with fierce urgency, a kiss that felt like venting rage, yet also like a desperate plea to hold on. I smiled against his lips. How pitiful. So men, too, become like those girls abandoned by playboys, desperately seeking solace in flesh. But I've always been ruthless. Just as his fingers were about to undo my belt, a shattering scream pierced the air. Xia Yunshu. I deliberately tipped off Songli about today's rendezvous. When she burst in, her meticulously styled bun was half undone, her petite face flushed with betrayed fury. Her trembling finger pointed at him. How could you do this to me? You swore you'd love only me for the rest of your life. What makes her better than me? I slowly tied my sash, watching coldly. How foolish of her to believe a man's lies. Songli stepped forward, pleading arrogantly. You don't need to flatter her anymore. Come back to me now, and I'll forgive you. I promise to be the wife of Xia Yunshu, Lord of Qinghe. Xia Yunshu showed no reaction. Songli, flustered and panicked, blamed everything on me. Her words cut like poisoned blades. Nan Qiao. You fickle, shameless woman. First you seduced the crown prince. Now you're after Yunshu. As she raged, Xia Yinxiu's expression hardened. Suddenly, she raised her hand and slapped Song Li across the face. Have you gone completely mad? Song Li staggered back 2 steps, clutching her face in disbelief. Her face drained of color, her lips trembling, yet no words came. She was always so high and mighty, rarely deigning to bestow favors on the dogs that fawned at her feet. But the dog wasn't interested. Song Li's eyes, once clear and sharp, were now filled with panic. Before leaving, Song Li flashed me a vicious grin, her eyes brimming with hatred. You bitch. Nan Qiao. You just wait. Song Li's wait didn't keep me waiting long. Within days, the capital's gossip was consumed solely by her and Xia Yinxiu. Rumors swirled of Xia Yinxiu's undying devotion, how he scoured the realm for her favorite musical scores and poetry anthologies. How he raced 10 miles through the night just to buy her the first knife fish landed at the pier. Most absurd of all, even the mandarin duck embroidery on her innermost undershirt was drawn by Xia Yinxiu himself. She'd stopped at nothing to force the Xia family into proposing. Ironically, these tales held truth. The Xia family, preserving their honor, had indeed pressured Xia Yinxiu to marry her. I next encountered Song Li at the temple fair of Longquan Temple. She was already selecting her bridal trousseau. Spotting me, she curled her lips in haughty disdain. Has the princess come to worship today? Longquan Temple is most renowned for granting marital blessings. With that worn-out body of yours, Your Highness, you'll likely never marry. Best make a wish. I ignored her and turned to leave. Soon, the autumn hunt arrived. I had another chance to outmaneuver Song Li. This year's hunt was held at the Western Suburban Palace. The young nobles, both men and women, loved to gallop on horseback and draw their bows, vying to show off their skills before the emperor and compete for a good ranking. I sat among the ladies in waiting below, drowsily fanning myself with a round fan. Miss Guo from the general's household invited me to demonstrate the martial prowess of a military family. I sipped my tea and lazily waved her off. My body's been feeling weak lately. I'll pass. Just as I spoke, I scooped a spoonful of egg custard. The moment it touched my tongue, nausea surged. Everyone nearby jumped in alarm. I smiled weakly, nothing serious. I drank cold water this morning and my stomach's a bit upset. Everyone accepted my explanation without suspicion, except Xia Yinxiu, who was nearby testing his bow. Hearing my words, his hand jerked violently, sending the arrow tumbling from the string to the ground. He whipped his head toward me, his eyes wide with shock before a flash of wild joy replaced it. He had guessed it. Song Li, naturally, had guessed it too. Her expression darkened instantly. She glared at me fiercely, her look practically devouring me. Seeing this, the Empress Dowager, worried about the food, summoned the imperial physician to take my pulse. After examining my pulse for a while, the physician's expression subtly shifted. Finally, he lowered his head and spoke in a low voice. Your Highness has merely caught a slight chill. I withdrew my wrist. Thank you for your service, physician. At noon, nausea returned, and as I prepared to leave the banquet, Song Li suddenly declared, the princess is with child. She ought to take good care of herself. Her words fell upon a deathly silence across all 4 banquet tables. She then feigned astonishment. Oh my! Did none of you know? The imperial physician just told me. Surely he wouldn't lie. I let out a cold laugh. I'd been wondering what she'd been up to all this time. Turns out she was prying information from the physician. Physician Lin beat his chest in frustration. Miss Song, you claim to care only for the princess's health. How could you? Indeed. How could she expose my secret in front of everyone? She clearly intended to destroy me. So now she gloats, brimming with confidence, waiting for my ruin. Several ladies could no longer contain their excitement, whispering among themselves. Yet the emperor and empress merely shifted slightly, their expressions barely changing. Song Li, oblivious, seized the initiative, truly worthy of the barbaric Northwest, such shamelessness. According to our imperial customs, this deserves drowning in a pond. Princess, how careless of you. Her words grew more heated, her excitement mounting. You are a princess personally bestowed by His Majesty. Isn't this slapping the emperor in the face? Song Li scanned the room, her gaze growing venomous. Who knows whose bastard child you're carrying? I doubt any man in the entire capital would dare marry you now. Song Li, usually so demure in public, now resembled a streetwise shrew. To onlookers, her spectacle was far more novel than my pregnancy. Miss Gua blushed at the words, Sister Song. Why such biting sarcasm? Song Li couldn't care less, reveling in her triumph. She was certain Xia Yinxiu would never admit to her own absurdity. But she was wrong. Xia Yinxiu strode forward. All eyes in the hall turned to him. He declared, I will marry her. Song Li's face drained of color. I smiled sweetly. What are you saying? Mr. Xia? We've only just met. There's no need for this. Princess Qingfang, seated beside the crown prince, blinked her large, innocent eyes and asked, I hear Princess Nanxiao is from Luhu in the northwest. I understand marriage isn't practiced there, and young women instead engage in walking marriages. Is that correct? I nodded with a smile. Your Highness is perceptive. Then, seeking favor, Princess Qingfang recounted to the crown prince how she'd studied the local chronicles of Daliang's provinces. She detailed with great familiarity how Luhu men and women practiced walking marriages, coming together when compatible and parting when not, with women holding the household authority. Different winds blow every 3 li. Different customs every 10 li, nothing particularly unusual about that. Hearing this, everyone froze, only belatedly recalling that my mother was indeed from Lu Lake. I was her only daughter born from a walking marriage. My birth father unknown. The customs of my homeland differed greatly from those of the Central Plains. And who is the husband from whom the princess walked into marriage? The princess inquired again. I answered simply, just some nobody. So, I gave Xia Yinxiu a leisurely glance, ignoring his stunned expression. Mr. Xia needn't be so generous. I said coolly. I'm not marrying anyone. I came to the capital precisely to find a clever, handsome man and have a child. Xia Yinxiu just happened to walk right into my trap. I arched my eyebrows in a smile, watching the confident gleam in Xia Yinxiu's eyes dim inch by inch. I was determined to shatter every last shred of his delusions. Absurd! Song Li slammed the table and screamed. She rattled off our dynasty's laws, stating that marriages involving family members of third-rank officials or higher must be reported to the imperial clan. I was defying the law, she declared, demanding the emperor punish me. Just then, Minister Song rushed in, dragging Song Li away. Leer, what are you doing? Stop this at once. Father, what are you doing? Your daughter is merely speaking the truth. I refuse to let the emperor be deceived by that vile woman. The empress slammed her hand on the table. Shut your mouth. Ignorant and presumptuous. Guards! Strike her. Song Li trembled violently. Before she could recover, a palace made by the empress's side lunged forward, raising her hand to deliver 2 vicious slaps across her face. She froze in place, her face slow to rise as she covered her mouth, blood trickling from the corners of her lips. The capital's most renowned beauty lay disheveled on the floor, a pitiful sight. Princess Qingfang couldn't bear to watch and interjected. The emperor long ago permitted Princess Nanxiao to follow her mother's customs, exempting her from marriage. This is the Lu people's tradition. Why such an uproar? Yet she keeps calling her a vile woman. I'd heard Miss Song was the capital's most beautiful woman. A talented scholar too, I imagined her gentle and kind. Who would have thought she'd be so sharp-tongued and vicious? With that, she shot the crown prince an unmistakable glance, as if to say, how poor his judgment must have been to ever fancy such trash. Failing to recognize true character, in a way, that too is a disgrace. The crown prince's face turned ashen. He shot Song Li a heavy glare before turning to placate the princess. Your Highness speaks wisely. She is merely a sheltered young lady who knows little of the world. Her familiarity with the great Liang Empire pales in comparison to your Highness's own. Clearly, she is nothing but a pretender seeking empty fame. And to dare slander the princess. How utterly despicable. This is the compensation I received for annulling the betrothal. Marriage freedom. I will not marry. The emperor welcomed this outcome, with mother holding military power in the northwest. My marriage into any noble house would only breed further suspicion in the emperor and crown prince. Now, following my maternal clan's customs legitimately, I preserve the military power from falling into another's hands while also granting the emperor a favor. He can rest assured. So when I proposed this compensation, His Majesty agreed almost without hesitation. I adjusted my sleeves, gazing at Song Li's swollen cheeks, and suddenly felt a pang of pity for her. Truthfully, we share a core similarity, we both stop at nothing to achieve our ends. The difference lies in our desires. She craves splendor and adoration, while I seek only freedom and ease. Who could outmaneuver whom? Who could strike more ruthlessly? These skills I learned from her since childhood. After returning to the mansion, I feigned abdominal pain and summoned the imperial physician that very night. The reason was plausible enough. I'd been so enraged by Song Li during the day that the shock had endangered my pregnancy. When word reached the palace, the empress was furious. To appease me, she specifically ordered me to deal with Song Li. Reclining in a soft chair, I idly blew on my freshly painted crimson nails. Back in the Northwest military camp, mistakes were punished with the cane. Miss Song is so delicate and tender, I couldn't bring myself to strike her. Instead, let her shave her head at the Gugu temple and practice monastic life for a year. The palace attendant responded with a curt yes, Your Majesty, and hurried off to relay the order. She staked her beauty and talent on a wager. Having lost, she must pay the price. I neither took her life nor dishonored her dignity, truly. This was an act of mercy. That very day, Song Li was made to kneel before the Buddha, her dark hair falling strand by strand to the floor. It was the first cruel act I had committed since arriving in the capital. That very night, Song Li tried to hang herself in her side chamber. A passing monk saw her and saved her. 3 days later, I went to Huaguosi Temple to burn incense and visited her on the way. Before I even reached the back courtyard, I heard faint sobbing. Song Li was sobbing into someone's embrace, tears streaming down her face like pear blossoms. On the ground lay half a silk scarf, so thin it wouldn't even hang a cat. Leaning against the door frame, I let out a soft chuckle. If she truly wished to die, there were plenty of ways to slip away silently. Her act was quite convincing. Each suicide attempt coincidentally drew a passerby. This time, it was Xia Yinxiu who saved her. Her dramatic attempts at death had earned Xia Yinxiu's redemption. Quite the bargain. Xia Yinxiu looked up and saw me. A flicker of complexity crossed his eyes. After a long silence, he asked, Why must you, Your Highness, pursue such ruthless destruction? I raised an eyebrow. Neither surprised nor angry. Xia Yinxiu and I were nothing but a fleeting affair born of ill intent. His talk of marrying me was mere heat of the moment, never to compare with his long-cherished moonlight. Song Li wept even harder, wailing that without her black hair she had no face to show anyone, that she might as well die. Xia Yinxiu was heartbroken. Li, I beg you, don't do anything foolish. The sight made me feel sick. Before I could vomit, I walked slowly to Song Li, leaned close, and whispered, Weren't those your words? The best way to destroy someone is to destroy what they cherish most. You taught me that. My dear sister. Both froze simultaneously. Song Li's face drained of color. Over a decade ago, Song Wendao came to the northwest to reward the troops. He fell in love with my mother, and they pledged to grow old together. But after he returned to the capital, he never came back. It wasn't until Mother repeatedly distinguished herself in battle and brought me to the capital that I learned my husband had married into a prestigious family and even had a child. He was faithless and heartless. But my mother was graceful. She treated it as a casual affair, never entangling herself in it, free from the burdens of love or resentment. Yet after Song Li discovered she wasn't Song Wendao's only daughter, her hostility arose inexplicably. At the academy, she appeared docile in public. But after class, she'd lean close to my ear and sneer. How dare a bastard born of a mother without a father attend this academy? She'd always been a beauty, surrounded by young ladies who joined her in mocking me. Childish games, I didn't wish to dwell on them. Then, on my birthday, Song Wendao secretly gave me a pair of wolf fur wrist guards. The next day, a torrential downpour came. Song Li led her people to block my way home, snatched the bracers, threw them into the river, and shoved me in after them. She watched me from the bank, shouting, "Those were my father's things. What right do you have to take them?" After that, whatever I liked, she would take. Few knew of our true relationship. Lin, the imperial physician who took my pulse that day, was one such person. He intended to conceal the truth from me, believing our bond to be sisterly affection. Yet Song Li coaxed the truth from him with mere words. Had I still been betrothed to the crown prince then, I likely would have been drowned in the pond by now. I looked at Xia Yinxiu, who remained utterly unaware. She sought my life. Was it too much for me to take a lock of her hair? Xia Yinxiu stared at Song Li in disbelief. Didn't you say? She's always envied your beauty since childhood and bullied you at every turn? Song Li shook his head, frantically grabbing his sleeve. Yunxiu, her small face, now bereft of hair, remained as beautiful as ever, tear-streaked like a pear blossom in rain. Watching her tears, I felt a pang of emotion. Being beautiful has its perks, people believe anything you say. Ever since my engagement to the crown prince, her greatest obsession became stealing him away. Besides me, the crown prince had already selected several noble ladies as secondary consorts, all unparalleled beauties. I looked at Xia Yinxiu with pity. In terms of looks and talent, they posed the greatest threat. Why didn't she send you to seduce them? Instead, she targeted me. Is it truly for the position of crown princess? No. I ruthlessly exposed the deepest, most despicable thoughts within Song Li's heart, and said maliciously to Xia Yinxiu, "You, my dear, are nothing but a pawn she uses to snatch what's mine. Of all the men who admire her, you happen to be the easiest to deceive. If not you, then who else would she use?" With that, I straightened up, smiling with satisfaction. Watching their expressions strike like lightning, my heart felt utterly exhilarated. I, too, am a villain, always revealing the truth at the very last moment. Delivering the final blow to my enemies, that's where the real fun lies. Song Li slumped to the ground, tugging at Xia Yinxiu's sleeve. "Yinxiu, let me explain." Xia Yinxiu was her last resort, her only choice. But Yinxiu's gaze grew icy. He slowly pulled his sleeve free from her grasp, clenching his teeth as each word came out clear and ruthless. "Don't call me." Mother had won another victory in the northwest. When she came to fetch me, I was packing my belongings. She entered the city in full military gear, dust-covered and weary, her sword jingling at her waist. The streets emptied as crowds gathered to witness her heroic presence. Her riding posture was so dashing, far more striking than any of those dashing young men who came to watch the parade. She collected many bouquets tossed by young women. The moment she saw my belly, she beamed with joy. Excellent! Excellent! The Nan family has an heir. Truly, my daughter. Men are all good-for-nothings. She spat disdainfully, then raised her eyebrows triumphantly. Our Late customs are still the best. On the day we left the capital, the emperor bestowed countless treasures upon Mother. The military provisions were loaded onto dozens of carts, stretching as far as the eye could see. As we exited the city, I happened upon Xiaoyinxiu. His affair with Song Li had become the talk of the town. Song Li's reputation was utterly ruined. The Xie family would never allow Xiaoyinxiu to marry her. The engagement between the two families was completely dissolved. When Song Li heard the news at Huoguosi Temple, she fainted on the spot. Upon waking, she threw another tantrum, crying, screaming, threatening suicide. Wielding a knife to her throat, she vowed to storm out of the temple and confront that faithless man. The young monk guarding her lunged for the blade but lost his aim, accidentally slashing her face. Blood gushed instantly. And just like that, her title as the capital's most beautiful woman was taken. Through the carriage curtain, the driver whispered, "Your Highness, Master Xia from Qinghe requests an audience." Mother lifted a corner of the curtain. "Who is this?" From behind the gauze, I let out a soft chuckle before replying calmly, "Not someone I know well." I urged the driver to hasten the journey. As the driver cracked his whip, a gust of wind lifted the curtain. In the fleeting moment our eyes met, Xiaoyinxiu abruptly lifted his head. His lips trembled as if to speak, but in the end, he only tightened his grip on the reins. The horse beneath him didn't advance another step. Over there, the Xia household servants were urging him back to Qinghe. We were each bound for different destinations, one to the northwest, the other to Qinghe, with mountains and rivers separating us. Neither farewells nor entreaties were necessary. 3 li into our journey, the carriage was halted again. The driver said it was Song Wendao, recently demoted from office. I asked, "Mother?" Mother was stuffing grapes into her mouth. She waved dismissively. "Don't know him." We shared a knowing smile. Beyond the carriage window, distant mountains stretched like ink, and the river flowed like a ribbon. With wealth and influence, Mother and I belong to this vast world. Those transient men? Not worth mentioning. The end.